Yo, what's up with y'all, man? I hope you're doing good. If you're new and you're a fan of the NBA, subscribe to this channel. So let's get straight into it. Oh, and the disclaimer, I'm sick, so if I sound kind of weird, you know why. I'm really not supposed to be making this video right now, but I am not about to let no sickness hold me back from making this. Oh. So for real, this time, let's get straight into it. Keep my eyes in the sky, 'cause that's where I'm moving. Say they wanna read my mind. A few years ago, there were several teams in the NBA who had to go through the inevitable rebuilding process that every single organization in the NBA has to go through. The Warriors were once upon a time cheeks, and so were the Boston Celtics, along with the Houston Rockets and the Philadelphia 76ers, of course. But with the help of assets, development, and being garbage, they were able to bounce back and give themselves a legit shot at winning an NBA title, if they haven't won one already. Today, we're going to be talking about 4 teams who are on the verge of ruining their rebuild. Now, listen up. All these teams still do have a chance of turning things around due to their core pieces or star player being so young still. But I believe that they're just a slip up or two away from regressing, losing their star player, and having to start the rebuilds from scratch again. The first team up are the Milwaukee Bucks. These last 2 to 3 years, they've been a bit underwhelming, and that's due to multiple things. Part of the reason why they've been so disappointing is because of their inability to surround Giannis with cornerstone pieces. The 76ers have Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, and Dario Saric to complement Joel Embiid. The Denver Nuggets have Millsap, Gary Harris, and Jamal Murray to complement Nikola Jokic. The Utah Jazz have Rudy Gobert and Ricky Rubio, and a bunch of other great role players to complement Donovan Mitchell. You see what I'm trying to say here? Just about every up-and-coming team that plans to do damage in the future already knows where they're going to surround their franchise player around, except for the Milwaukee Bucks. Just a couple years ago, it seemed that the Milwaukee Bucks were going in the right direction, and it was looking like they had a pretty promising supporting cast around Giannis. Jabari Parker just had his first 20-point per game season in 2016, and just a couple months before that happened, they selected Thon Maker, who was seen as a modern-day demigod and a walking mismatch. And plus, they were able to select the Rookie of the Year winner, Malcolm Brogdon. All of that seemed like they were cooking up something special, but in just a matter of a few months, all of that got thrown out the window because of injuries and disappointing young players. As you all know, Jabari ended his relationship with the Bucks and went to go get a bag real quick from the Chicago Bulls. Look, I really do understand why the Bucks decided to let him walk. He's way too much of a risk to be paying that much money. But bruh, they had an opportunity to trade him at the trade deadline and at least get something for him. But instead, they decided to keep him and just let him walk. So that is an L. Thon Maker, what happened to him? I spoke about Thon Maker plenty of times on this channel before, and trust me, I can get on him if I really wanted to. But I'm gonna just keep things short and simple. It doesn't seem like Thon Maker is gonna be very good going into the future. He is cheeks, and he's been playing like a raw prospect these last 2 years. Later down the line, I can see him maybe, just maybe, becoming a good role player. But as we all know, that ain't good enough because this is a star-driven league. So some of the biggest pieces to the Milwaukee Bucks' future already hasn't and probably won't pan out too well for them. With that being said though, they still do have some positives. They have who I believe is the most underrated player in the NBA by far, Chris Middleton. He could possibly make an all-star appearance this year. Chris is a really nice complementary piece to Giannis, and I think he's someone that they're going to hold on to for a very long time. He was actually pretty much the only dude on the Bucks besides Giannis to actually show up in the playoffs. He was throwing up 25 points per game on stupid efficiency. He shot nearly 60% from 3 and the field. So Chris is really good, and he's one of the biggest positives on this team. So other than Chris Middleton, who the hell else do the Bucks have to be excited for? Malcolm Brogdon? He's a really good role player. You see, man, that's the thing. I really don't know. Eric Bledsoe, the guy who was supposed to be a plus for this team, kinda ended up being the complete opposite. He really doesn't fit well with Giannis because of his play style and his on and off defense. So I definitely do not see him being a part of the future long term, unless he can become a better shooter and adjust his play style in order to coexist with Giannis. But none of us are too sure if that will ever happen. Who else? Who else do the Bucks have? John Henson? He's not even a real starting center. Pretty much everybody on this roster, except for Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, and the rookie that they just selected this year, have a really questionable future. That is not a good look at all, especially to Giannis. But luckily for the Bucks, they have some time to turn things around because Giannis is so young and he's locked up with the Bucks until the year 2021. So they have 2 huge off seasons to go ahead and get their stuff together. If they don't turn their whole ship around, then they may lose their superstar, their franchise player, their everything, Giannis Antetokounmpo, due to the lack of quality talent surrounded around him. Giannis has said before in the past that he's committed to being loyal to this organization. In 2014, he tweeted out, "I'll never leave this team and city of Milwaukee till we build the team to a championship level." In 2017, he tweeted out, "I got royalty in my DNA." But more recently, during the season last year, he made a statement saying, "As long as Milwaukee does the right moves and we're a championship level team, I'm not going nowhere." Did you see how we didn't guarantee that he'll be a Buck for life in that last quote? He said, "As long as Milwaukee does the right moves." Well, they haven't been doing this as of recent. So if they keep on goofing it up these next 2 off seasons and 3 seasons, they could actually lose Giannis and force him to move on to a new chapter in free agency. Next team on this list is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Isn't it crazy how much different we look at the Wolves now compared to last year when they made that Jimmy Butler trade? A lot of us in the NBA community last year thought that this team would be the ones to eventually dethrone the Golden State Warriors. Right now though, in 2018, nobody holds them to that elite standard anymore. And that's because of how disappointing Andrew Wiggins has been and how garbage of a coach/GM Tom Thibodeau has been too. Let's get into Wiggins first, alright? I'm pretty sure we all know how 90% of the NBA community views him now. He's looked at as almost a waste of talent. He has all the potential in the world due to his athleticism and good build, but it doesn't seem like he actually applies himself. A lot of the times it looks like he's nonchalant and complacent with his game. Look, all of the blame should not be placed on Wiggins, alright? Because Tom Thibodeau is a huge reason why they've been underperforming. Not only does he coach, but he also has some power in the front office. If you guys didn't know already, there are about 4 former Bulls who are on this roster who played for Tom Thibodeau. Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler of course, Todd Gibson, and Aaron Brooks. None of these guys, except for Jimmy, fit well with their core, Wiggins and Towns. The type of offense that they run is kinda inefficient. I'm not saying what they run is bad, no, that's not the case. They still have one of the best offenses in the league, surprisingly. But I just believe that Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and Jimmy Butler aren't being used to their full potential. Those 3 guys are athletic as hell and can get up and down the floor with ease. So due to that, I'm sure we'd all expect the Bulls Timberwolves to be one of the more up-tempo, upbeat teams in the league offensively. But instead, they're the opposite. They are the 22nd slowest team in the league offensively. Now, before some of y'all come at my neck, I understand that playing slow-paced basketball isn't bad at all. The Spurs, Celtics, and Utah Jazz were even slower than them. But you see, the difference between them and the Timberwolves is that they are all elite, top-notch defensive teams in the NBA. And the Wolves are simply not. In fact, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. This whole Jimmy Butler experiment has been really rough, and as of now, I don't think the situation could get any better. Time is ticking for the Timberwolves. Jimmy Butler is a free agent after this season. They traded away half of their future for this guy right here. So if Jimmy Butler ends up walking and signing with another team this offseason, this would be a serious blow to the T-Wolves. So this past year and this year too, most likely, could be the only 2 years of good Timberwolves basketball that we could be seeing for a while now. Right when we thought that the Wolves were one of the top teams in the league, just a year later, thanks to Tom Thibodeau, they might have to be rebuilding once this year ends. Now, the Wolves still do have a chance of turning things around and getting things done the right way. But can they turn things around in just 1 year? We'll have to see about that one. The Detroit Pistons. They have had so many ups and downs these last few years. And just a couple of months ago, as we all know, they just made one of the most riskiest trades that I've ever seen. They ended up trading for Blake Griffin. Now, if you've been on my channel for the past 5 to 6 months, you already know how I feel about the Pistons. I think they got completely finessed by Jerry West and the Los Angeles Clippers in this trade. It's gonna be extremely hard for them to get things right. With this BG trade, they now have no real money to use this offseason for any quality players, and they're gonna going to be locked up to Blake, who is an injury-prone power forward for the next 4 years. And they just about have no valuable assets that they can trade in order to improve their roster. So Detroit is stuck, and I believe they possibly could start a rebuild within these next 2 years. They have time, alright? They still have time because Andre Drummond is still stupid young. But as time goes on, things aren't looking too good for them at all. Last but not least, of course, are the New Orleans Pelicans. These past few years, the Pelicans have made a ton of questionable moves. They've been in question because of their super suspect ability to put talent around Anthony Davis. Right now, the Pelicans have an okay roster, but they really hurt themselves by letting go of Rondo in free agency. He was the QB of that offense and the corner or safety, I think. I bet I got like 0 football IQ. But you get what I'm trying to say here. He was a vital piece for the Pelicans, and they replaced him with Elfrid Payton. Yeah, that is quite the downgrade. He is a really similar player to Rondo, but at the same time, he's meh. He's like the China version of Rondo. He isn't nothing defensively, and offensively, he's not as good of a playmaker as Rondo. So due to that, I'm not too sure if the Pelicans can make the playoffs this year. They still do have a chance, alright, but I don't think they have a very strong one. The Memphis Grizzlies, the Denver Nuggets, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are arguably better than them. They for damn sure have more talent than the Pelicans. The only reason why I say it's arguable is because of that man AD. Speaking of AD, this actually may be one of his last stints in New Orleans if they do not get their act together. AD is well aware of the possibility of having to leave this team in the offseason or request a trade.
3 more seasons, but at some point will he ask for a trade? Davis acknowledges he's heard ex-players like Kevin Garnett say they regret not asking to move to a more competitive franchise earlier in their careers.
It makes you think. I'm not gonna lie, it makes you think.
With that being said though, just like all the other teams on this list, the Pelicans still do have a chance to fix all of this because of how much money they could potentially have in the 2020 offseason. But then again, it's never guaranteed that a top free agent will sign with your team. So things aren't looking too good for the Pelicans. Right now, they're depending on how well Elfrid Payton and Julius Randle will pan out. Those two right there in the 2020 offseason will determine what Anthony Davis does with his future. So as of now, we just have to sit here and watch what happens. But that's the end of the video, man. The Bucks, T-Wolves, Pistons, and of course the New Orleans Pelicans are all on the verge of ruining their rebuild. Let me know what you guys think about this video, man. Who else do you believe belonged on this list? And who do you think didn't belong on this list? Let me know. But like I said, man, this is the end of the video. I really appreciate you for watching. And I'll get right with you.
No way, remember back when I couldn't get a play, no home, I ain't have a place to stay, I got to work, made the surf free to way, told my girl who'd ever